It's their right to speak against me, and it's their right. But the thing is, I only want support for my cause of education. It's the right of every girl and every boy.
The kind of education you were getting, they argue, is a Western education.
If I want to go to school and I want to become a doctor, so there would be an Eastern doctor or a Western doctor. Is there difference in the studies? If I want to become an engineer, so is there a different way to become an engineer, Eastern engineer or a Western engineer? This is education, this is knowledge. It can neither be Eastern nor Western.
And sir, with a young woman so many expected to win the Nobel Peace Prize this week, Malala Yousafzai, the 16-year-old Pakistani girl who survived bullets for insisting that all girls deserve an education. It went instead to chemical weapons inspectors for the tough work they do around the world. And we brought in some experts to talk about that choice and what's next for Malala. But first, let's go to ABC's chief foreign correspondent, Terry Moran, in Syria, where the winners are doing their most crucial work. Good morning, Terry.
George, there are 28 Nobel Prize-winning chemical weapons inspectors on the ground here in Damascus right now, and the task they face is staggering. They're supposed to identify, locate, remove, and destroy Syria's entire chemical weapons arsenal. More than 1,000 tons of munitions, precursor chemicals, mixing equipment, the lot. Do it in a few months in the middle of a raging civil war. We met with the team the night they won the prize. They are, as you can imagine, a close-knit bunch, not without a sense of humor. The Chemical Brothers, they call themselves, but they're under no illusions about the difficulty of this task or the fact that they themselves are personally targets. Many of the rebel and jihadist groups in this country do not want them here. They wanted the American military strike that President Obama promised. They thought that might help change the balance of power in this war and lead them to victory. But for many ordinary Syrians, the work of the chemical weapons inspectors is the work of peace, and they hope that it might offer the chance of a beginning of the end of their long national agony. George?
Okay, thank you, Terry. And for more on the Nobel Peace Prize announcement, we're joined by David Miliband, who served as Britain's foreign secretary, now runs the International Rescue Committee here in New York, along with Shiza Shahid, who founded and runs the Malala Fund. Thank you both for joining us. And David, let me begin with you. There has been some criticism of this choice. Do you think it's justified?
I think the chemical weapons inspectors do amazing work, but the truth is they probably wouldn't have got this prize if President Assad hadn't used chemical weapons. So it's a bit of an irony that you've got this body that's done 15 years of important work. It takes the abuse of chemical weapons to get them in the headlines. So even though the Nobel Prize Committee denies it, this is in some ways sort of to reinforce their work. I think there's an aspiration in the announcement, but there's also a danger, let's be honest. 1,400 people were killed with chemical weapons. 120,000 people have been killed in all. 7 million people displaced from their homes. And people like me, running an organisation like the International Rescue Committee, we're concerned that people don't think that somehow, because the chemical weapons seems to be being addressed, that the Syrian conflict, the regional conflict, is done and dusted.
The refugee crisis still exploding.
I mean, 7 million people. Just think of a country like Jordan, a big ally of the United States, 600,000 refugees. That's like the whole of Poland arriving in the United States. It's a massive hit to these societies.
Shiza, how did Malala take the announcement?
You know, she said to me jokingly yesterday, if I ignore the Nobel Committee's decision, I already feel like I've won, because people all over the world have been sending in love and prayers. So she wasn't expecting it. She'd said, I have a lot of work to do. And that's what she's focusing on. And she's wished the OPCW luck in their tremendous task.
And I wonder if you talk about, as you talk about the work Malala wants to do, if not getting the Nobel Peace Prize was somehow a blessing in disguise, does it help her in some way in her home country?
I mean, she's 16. I think it's a heavy burden to carry. She carries many burdens already, and she does them very, very well. But I think she has many, many years ahead of her to win the prize. In Pakistan, people were hopeful and expecting it, but I think it really brought the nation together around a cause, and it served its purpose with the nomination. And
she has said that at some point she could see herself seeking elective office. But what is the focus right now for Malala and the foundation?
For Malala, it's school and getting back to having some sort of a normal life, while also continuing her campaign. So at the foundation, we're trying to build the right team around her to take her campaign forward with her vision, which is really getting girls into school and helping them be powerful agents of change.
This is something that you all worked on when you were British Foreign Secretary.
Yeah, I think that there's a revolution going on around the world, and it's not the political revolutions that get the headlines, it's the education revolution that is helping to change lives. And this spirit that is so evident in Malala Yousafzai's work, extraordinarily inspiring work, I think is one of the great hopes for progress. Of course, if you just go back to that Syrian crisis, 300,000 kids in Lebanon, boys and girls, Syrian refugees, with no education. And they need NGOs, they need governments to really mobilize, because that's, if we're not careful, a forgotten and dangerous generation. And their potential as a generation is magnificent, but the danger is obviously huge. And right across the Arab world, massive lack of education.
Do you see the hope in Pakistan now?
We do. We do. We see, Malala's shooting really galvanized people to get up and say, I denounce terrorism. I name the groups that have done this attack, which was not being done in the past. And thousands of girls got up and said, I'm Malala, and that was revolutionary. So we see hope, and we see progress.
So maybe we'll be back in a decade and see Malala as the Nobel Prize winner?
I hope so. And Pakistan's a country which traditionally has spent 6 or 7 times as much on the military as on education. Now organisations like the IRC, the International Rescue Committee, organisations like the Pakistani government, NGOs, they're mobilising for education in Pakistan because it's the future of that country.
Big change. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.